Hello scholars, today you're going to be learning skill 11, the discriminant. The discriminant allows us to find the type and number of solutions to a quadratic equation. By the end of this lesson, hopefully you guys will be able to identify this discriminant in a quadratic formula, find the number of solutions of a quadratic equation using the discriminant, and determine the type of solutions of a quadratic equation using the discriminant. So what is the discriminant? Well, the discriminant is a part of the quadratic formula that is under the square root symbol. So it is just this piece of our quadratic formula. And the discriminant, when it's solved, is going to tell us how many solutions a quadratic equation has and what type of solutions those are. So when we solve our discriminant, we're always going to have one of three types of answers. We're going to have a discriminant equal to 0, the discriminant is going to be equal to a positive number, or the discriminant is going to be equal to a negative number. And what that means is, if for instance we have this expression over here, 3 plus or minus the square root of 0, this is going to simplify to 3 over 2. And that's going to give us one real solution. If, for instance, we have a positive number under our square root, then this is going to simplify to 3 plus or minus 2 over 2. And that is going to be 1/2 or 5 over 2, or 2 real solutions. And if, for instance, we have a negative number in our square root symbol, that's going to simplify to 3 plus or minus 2i over 2, which will give us no real solutions. But it will give us 2 imaginary solutions. Because remember, we're using our imaginary number, I. So we have three types of discriminants that we've seen so far. We know that our discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, the part underneath our square root symbol in our quadratic formula, and that those answers can be positive, negative, or equal to 0. And what that is going to tell us is the type and number of real solutions. So if we have a positive number in our square root symbol, we're going to have 2 real solutions. If we have a negative number, we're not going to have any real solutions, but we will have, again, 2 imaginary solutions. And if we have a 0 under our square root symbol, we will have 1 real solution. So what does the discriminant tell us graphically? If we're looking at these 3 graphs right here, we have 3 different graphs, and what we're looking at is when our graph is negative, we have no place over here where our graph crosses the x-axis. So we have no solutions here, no real solutions. If our graph is positive, we have 1, 2 places. And you might remember that these are called the x-intercepts or roots. We have 2 real solutions to this quadratic equation. And if it is equal to 0, if our discriminant is equal to 0, we touch in just a single place. So we will have 1 real solution. So this is what the discriminant can tell us graphically. So let's try some of these examples real quick. So we are asked to find how many solutions this formula has and what types they are. So we see this big quadratic formula right here, but we're not interested in that. We're only interested in our discriminant right now because we are asked to find how many solutions and what type, not what they are. So 4 times 4 is going to be 16, minus 4 times 2, which is 8, times 2 is 16. 16 minus 16 is equal to 0. That means we have 1 real solution. And for example number 2, we're going to do the same thing. we are going to pay attention only to our discriminant right here, which is the stuff underneath our square root. 7 times 7 is 49. Minus 4 times 3, which is 12, times 15 is 180. 49 minus 180 is a negative 131. And because our answer is negative, we know that there are no real solutions, 0 real solutions. But we do have 2, remember, imaginary ones. So here are our steps to solving when we're finding the discriminant given a quadratic equation. So the first thing you're going to do is make sure that the equation is in standard form. And remember, standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. You're going to set one side equal to 0, and then you're going to identify your a, b, and c. Then you're going to plug in your a, b, and c into your discriminant formula. Remember, our discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, which is the part that's under our square root. And then we're going to simplify. Okay, so in these next two examples, we're asked to find how many solutions do these equations have, and what are their types. We're going to start with example 3. So for example 3, I can see that my equation is in standard form, so I'm going to identify my a. My a is equal to 8, my b is equal to negative 3, and my c is equal to 7. Next, I'm going to plug them into my discriminant formula. So my b is 3, so I have negative 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 8, times c, which is 7. Negative 3 squared is going to give me 9. 9 minus 4 times 8 times 7 is 224. And that is going to give me a negative 215. And because it is negative, we know that there are 0 real solutions. And 2 imaginary. In example 4, we are asked to find the number of solutions and types of 3x squared plus 15x plus 25 minus, which is equal to negative 3x minus 2. I can see that my standard form is not complete yet, so I'm going to add 3x plus 2 to both sides. And that's going to leave me with 3x squared plus 18x plus 27 is equal to 0. Now I'm in standard form. My a is equal to 3, my b is equal to 18, and my c is equal to 27. Next, I'm going to write out my discriminant formula. So I have my 18 squared, which is b, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 27. And we're going to find that 18 squared is 324. Minus 4 times 3, which is 12. 12 times 27 is also going to give us 324. That is going to be equal to 0, which means that we have one real solution. So the last thing I want to do is this little fun puzzle. We are asked to find k for a given number of type of solutions. So we are asked to determine the values of k for which 3x squared plus kx plus 5 equals 0 has exactly 2 real solutions, 1 real solution, and 0 real solutions. So when we think about this, what is this question actually asking us to do? Well, it is trying to find when our discriminant has 2 real solutions. And we know that is because when our discriminant is positive, we have 2 solutions. When our discriminant is equal to 0, we have 1 real solution. And when we have a negative discriminant, we have 0 real solutions. So this is what the question is really asking. The question is asking us to take our discriminant, our b squared minus 4ac, and set it equal to something. And I'm going to examine our one real solution first. I'm going to look at when our discriminant is equal to 0, and you'll see why here in a second. So I'm going to plug in my discriminant, my k squared minus 4 times 3 times 5 is equal to 0. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12, times 5 is 60, negative 60. So we have a k squared minus 60 is equal to 0. We're going to add 60 to both sides. And k squared is going to be equal to 60. And then we're going to take the square root of that. K is going to be equal to a positive or a negative square root of 60. So now we've solved for one of the 3 solutions, but the other 2 come very quickly once you realize that if k is greater than, if I make k greater than this, then our answer is going to be higher than 0. So if k is greater than, a positive or minus square root of 60, then we will have a positive discriminant. If k is greater than, say if k is the square root of plus or minus 61, then we will have a positive discriminant, and that's going to give us 2 solutions. And if k is less than the square root of 60, then we will have a negative answer. So if k is the square root of negative 59, we will have a negative answer. And that is going to give us 0 real solutions. So when our k is less than, we have 0 real solutions. And that's how you find what values of k will solve to give us a certain number of solutions. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I look forward to seeing you in class.